Hello, my friends. Welcome to the final round of Swiss here at GP Detroit. The format is Team Unified Modern. And Eduardo Sajkulik, my booth partner here, you can tell us that this essentially is a straight-up win-and-in for a top-4 berth in this tournament.
Yeah, and we see here one of the, I don't think we've seen this deck on camera so far this weekend, but they've been running the tables with it. Just Titan Shift.
Yeah, it's kind of snuck under the radar just a little bit here in the hands of Felix C here. Let's see. We've got the list here in front of us, and we can talk to you a little bit about what's going on with it. Not something that we see too often here. Scapeshift has taken a bit of a back seat in recent weeks, but all of a sudden at 11-1-1, it's one of the decks that is playing for top 4.
Yeah, I mean, very standard list. I think the two Wood Elves.
A standard list.
Well, modern list.
A modern list. Okay.
Yes.
It's going to say that'd be surprising.
Yeah. But yeah, just the only kind of super. There's some spice. 2 Colony Heart Expedition, 2 Wood Elves, 1 Prismatic Omen. Prismatic Omen.
Yes.
Well, definitely not a card you want in multiples, but allows you to combo off with Scapeshift off just 6 lands. Essentially, you can get 4 Valakut with Scapeshift and Prismatic Omens, 2 other lands of your choosing, and then, well, they're all mountains.
Yeah, turns the Valakuts into mountains themselves.
Yeah, and you just fire a lot of triggers. I don't remember what the exact damage is, but I believe it's...
I think it's a lot.
A lot.
Is it a lot or heaps?
I think it's 60.
Okay, well, it's either a lot, heaps, or 60. I'm not 100% sure. In any case,
it might be 72.
We're going to see a Collected Brutality here. Collected Brutality taking apart the hand of Felix. A nice one, for sure. Getting a little bit of value out of a card that otherwise doesn't do a huge amount, and Farseek, the obvious pick here. A very land-heavy hand. Secure Tribe Elder as well as a Lightning Bolt, but... These Scapeshift lists often play upwards of 24, 25, maybe 26 lands.
Yeah, 26 or 27 with a cycle land or 2, like Sheltered Thicket. Also, we haven't really seen much of this deck, Mardu Pyromancer.
Yeah, it's had a quiet one as well. I think it's pretty typical of the decks that, tend to be a little bit greedier. Mardu Pyromancer wants all the black disruption, wants all the red disruption, which often gets split between 2 different decks. But again, Eduardo, we've seen this tournament, unusually for modern tournaments, be split between 3 pretty separate pillars. The Ancient Stirrings deck, the Noble Hierarch deck, and then basically a fetch land, shock land deck. And so, in this kind of weird version of Unified Modern, David Marsuka has been able to play Mardu Pyromancer without impinging on his teammates.
Well, Bradley Tinney and Brian Kinnell are actually on neither of the archetypes you mentioned, which is uncommon. It's Infect and Celestial Colonnade.
I love it.
With Hieroglyphic Illumination.
I love it. I love it. I'm so unsure about this Hieroglyphic Illumination, but with Ben Stark, LSV, multiple Hall of Famers playing it, this may be the new hotness here. It's unbelievable. So have we got 3 fetch and shock decks here? It looks like we do.
Yeah, just straight up. It's great.
Well, smashing paradigms left, right, and center here, these guys. And at 11-2, you can't argue with their logic as we see Liliana of the Veil come down. Both players going to have to discard here. And see, probably going to chuck away one of his lands by the look of things. He's got plenty of them. Lightning Bolt in hand as well for him, and a Mountain hits the bin.
Liliana of the Veil, one of the most powerful possible cards against the Scapeshift deck if it comes down early. That deck needs a critical mass of lands, and then you really need to get to 7 lands to make that Scapeshift matter. So, yeah, essentially losing every card in your hand will usually matter. So... Liliana taking care of that, but yeah, that's why you see Lightning Bolt plus Secure Tribe Elder.
And see, really getting away with murder there, able to take Liliana off the table without really having been dealt with too severely. Obviously, Marzuka is playing the deck that prefers to discard cards with things like Lingering Souls, but all the same, I think Felix C can consider himself to be very leniently dealt with there, as we see young Pyromancer, the follow-up play for Marzuka here.
Yeah, and David is playing a basic planes, which is a little uncommon in Mardu Pyromancer, but it's definitely makes sense considering what the sideboard has, which we'll get to as needed for game 2 and 3.
Back to C now as he plays a rather ugly-looking Forest, has to be said. Got a Primetime in hand. A bit of an unorthodox build, this one. Not only the Prismatic Omen, but 2 copies of Colony Heart Expedition and 2 copies of Wood Elves as well. Yeah. So a little bit off the wall, this one, I have to say.
Yeah, but right now, Felix would love one of these cards. Maybe not the Colony Heart, since Colony Heart is not a very good top deck. And that's why we haven't seen it so much. Very good on turn 2. Not so much later down the line, so it makes for a poor top deck. But Felix kind of stuck with 2 Primeval Titans and a Scapeshift. Really needs that extra land. And I think that Sakura Tribe Elder, we're going to see it sacrifice at end of turn to go to 5 mana, so that any top deck land allows Felix to unleash Primeval Titan and moving towards a victory.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to have to check his watch and see if prime time is approaching here. Let's have a look and see what Marzuka's up to for his turn. No instants or sorceries to follow up that young Pyromancer at instant speed. I think I've got we can see Colligan's Command in hand. In addition to that, looks like a Lingering Souls.
Yeah, the card that David Marzuka, who I believe is a little behind here, but there's one card that would turn the tide of this matchup completely. Blood Moon. Two copies.
In the main.
And you're playing 4 Faithless Looting for that reason, to help you get that velocity and try to get to Blood Moon. But yeah, here David would love to draw that card more than anything else.
Because I don't think T has an answer to it in the main deck. There's no way to remove it. On Engineered Explosives would be his only out to that. And even then, I mean, how is he generating 3 colors of mana with a Prismatic Omen?
That would be the
quite
the sequence of cards. Prismatic Omen into Engineered Explosives for free. That would be a victory.
That'd be something to tell the grandkids about for sure. Yeah, float like Jeskai colors and
we were talking about the moral victory. I think that the winning play combining with the moral victory is what Magic's all about. Like, so, calling Riders of Gavany coming up at some point in this weekend. Yeah,
that's a huge moral victory for you, Eduardo. Yes, you did a big victory lap around the venue before, high-fiving everyone. He was holding up he made me do it, actually. Did a big sign saying Eduardo called it Riders of Gavany, best card in Modern. It barely fit on the sign, but I had to follow him around as he was high-fiving everyone.
Oh, a tap land.
Oh, no. How are those for some daggers there, huh? As we see Valakut off the top. That means that Primetime has hit a delay.
It's not so bad, though. An untapped land means that Scapeshift would also be a victory. Any land at this point, really, or even Farseek. So there's a ton of top decks, but this Thoughtseize is going to probably take away the Scapeshift, meaning that Felix is going to have to rely on these Primeval Titans.
But that's fine. I mean, double Primetime is not a bad backup plan in the face of a Thoughtseize here. And Scapeshift is certainly getting close to getting it done here. I mean, a land off the top would just about do it with a Scapeshift, right?
Right, but this is what I meant. The Thoughtseize will take the Scapeshift.
Take that out of it,
And the thing is, though, that David's clock is just not fast enough. Here we're going to see 5 damage come in, putting Felix to 15, but then Primeval Titan's going to come down. Then you can't attack with the young Pyromancer, and then attacking with one element. I guess you could attack with the Elementals, but just not enough damage. No. Attack for Primeval Titan, playing another one, that's going to be way more than enough.
Yeah, people have really not had Scapeshift on the radar recently. I'm unsurprised to see doing good. Oh, hello. All right, Marzuka is putting himself dead to a top deck here, unless he's got another piece of hand disruption.
Oh yeah, I believe I saw a Colligan's Commander.
Oh yeah. Okay, sure.
But if the plan was to play Colligan's Commando, I would have liked the other sequence: Colligan's Command first, and then Thoughtseize away the remaining card from your opponent's hand. That makes sense with their strategy, but Yeah, an untapped land, a land search effect.
Yeah, even a Secure Tribelder or anything, because he doesn't need all that mana.
Farseek, Search from Tomorrow, Secure Tribelder, any land. Yeah, that's good.
There's a land, so that's it. Has C just stolen this one from the nose of his opponent?
I mean, I think he would have won with the 2 Titans eventually, at least. But yeah, just...
Well, we are seeing here, Felix C. I mean, you've got to believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. And here, Felix C. is going to do exactly... Oh, well, no, not everything. Okay, well, there you know. Never mind. Never mind about believing in anything, ladies and gentlemen. Don't believe what you've heard. You don't have to sacrifice everything. Leave the Valakut around. Go and get your 6 mountains. An easy game. Look at that. Simple as that. Felix C. sends 18 at the dome. David Marzuka's just like, oh, guess I probably should have taken that Scapeshift, huh?
Yeah, I think it's better to leave yourself with a low chance to win rather than almost none. And with Thoughtseize having 2 Titans and a Scapeshift, for me it made sense to take with Thoughtseize. Normally you want to remove one of the options from your opponent, and by leaving the Primeval Titan in hand, and the Scapeshift, you're leaving your opponent with every option. Yeah,
it seemed to be not the best line to have taken there, and I think Marzuka's paying the price. Anyway, we move on now to Dan Lanthea and Bradley Tinney. And this is, of course, well, you can very clearly see what's going on here. Basic Plains, Basic Island, and a search for Azcanta, Serum Visions. We're on some white-blue control here. Looks like Bradley Tinney, however, is playing another little blasty blast from the pasty past here with a copy of Infect finding its way into this win and in for top 4.
I have not seen the card Acreclaw Mirror in a long time, actually.
Yeah, man. I remember playing it in Standard Infect way back in the day, but it seems to have been one of the cards that has replaced Gataxian Pro, but it has, the deck has had to have gone a bit bigger now. It doesn't have that hugely low-to-the-ground approach that it used to have.
I mean, Gataxian Pro was so egregious.
Yeah, it was pretty busted. It was pretty... And, I mean, now, obviously, removed from Legacy, so ultimately... Yeah.
I mean, it's Death Right Shaman attacks. It was just impressive how long we had access to these cards in Modern. But Acre Claw Mirror. Actually, it's a very good inclusion for creature-centric matchups like the ones you might expect, say, with humans, if you can boost it with a Rancor. So that's kind of why you see that card there. It allows you to push through creatures. Well, that was last game.
So now, Jace the Mind Sculptor hits the bin thanks to the Search for Azcan trigger there. Looks like Lanthea has a Jace all ready to go, locked and loaded in the chamber. But back to Tinny now, who hasn't been able to push through for too much Infect damage here just yet. We'll see if that changes, if things are going to kind of get wet and wild here with both the Icklawmere and Glistener Elf.
Yeah, and in matchups like this, you're more frequently going to be pushing small amounts of Infect damage because your opponent's removal gets taxed already. But if you overload all your pump spells on one creature, then their removal spell becomes a 2 or a 3 for 1, and they can push ahead. So ideally what you want to do is push some damage on different creatures and then use pump spells on the... your opponent takes 4 Infect, 5 Infect, and then 1 pump spell on any creature would do it. That said, Might of Volcroza, I kind of agree with putting it on the Glistener Elf here, even though Dan has a Path to Exile. You do have to start getting through those removal spells. You could have done it on turn 4, but at that point they have access to cards like Cryptic Command and Settle the Wreckage. So pushing the Might of Volcroza here, I think, is the right line, even though it may get punished by Path to Exile.
Okay, while the sun shines here, Lanthea with a decision to make. Of course, Tinny, with that breeding pool, is representing something like a Vines of Vastwood. We don't see Apostle's Blessing played too often, but here's a mutagenic growth. This might provoke a response from Lanthea. Is his response to pick up his pen and adjust the life totals? Well, just for the mutagenic growth.
And this is a really rough spot. With 1 green up, Dan is thinking about that Blossoming Defense. That would be lethal damage.
Yeah.
So if you take this Infect damage, which is essentially all but 1 poison, then, you're essentially in a situation where you can never take a hit. So if Dan had access to Path to Exile, which isn't sure, right? We don't get access to the player's hands here. But if you had access to Path to Exile and decided not to use it, it means that Dan was planning, I will never take another point of Infect damage again.
So we don't have the Infect marked on the screen there, my friends, but it's our understanding that he's on 9 poison counters?
I believe so. We have +4/+4 and +2/+2, so that's 6, 7, 8 from this attack, and then I believe the Glistener Elf came in for 1.
Got in for 1,
so
nice
yeah.
and early. So I think I can see a Settle the Wreckage hanging out in the hand of Lanthea there at the back. Third time the charm there, got there in the end. And he's just brought it to the front of his hand, yes. So this is going to almost certainly have to be snapped off here.
Oh, it looks like it was a Terminus. So Dan Lanthea actually just didn't have the removal there.
Okay, all right.
Which means that Bradley may have had another pump spell and gone for lethal. But it's really difficult in those spots to know.
Yeah, a little bit of a dance there, mating dance done between these two particular birds of paradise, as we never really know exactly, which way is the best way to play around. Not only the removal spells your opponent has, the pump spells that you have, the timing of all this sort of stuff is very difficult. But I'll tell you, there's one card that's very, very easy to cast, and that's Settle the Wreckage. You cast it during the Declare Attacker step.
Oh, you can do it after blocks too.
Yeah, you can do it after damage has been done as well if you're, if you're
an adventurous sort.
Technically, you can cast it whenever you want. Technically, you cast it whenever you want, right? You cast it during their upkeep. It's not going to get too much done, but still, maybe you really need that prowess trigger. I don't know.
That would be one of the coolest ways to kill an opponent I've ever seen. Using Settle the Wreckage to do +1/+1 prowess. I mean, we're not going to see that. Settle the Wreckage, just a very clean 2 for 1 since you only got 1 basic land.
Yep, nice and easy there. As an Icklawmere joins the party here.
And with no Inkmoth Nexus or in play and no haste creature available in the deck, Terminus good. If Terminus wasn't the top card here, then Dan would probably have slammed down Jace and done a -1. But Terminus is even better. You get rid of the creature and get to brainstorm right away. Yeah, that's a nice little turn of events there for Lanthea. Very fortunate that he found that Terminus on the top. Although it wasn't lights out, of course, if he didn't have it. But a very nice way to continue to push his way forward. I'm interested to look at the deck of Lanthea here and see exactly how many copies of Terminus he's playing. It should be 4. I've got the list in front of me, and it is indeed 4 copies. This card is the best. It is the stone cold best. It is the best answer to the modern format as a whole. Sweepers are at a premium right now, especially ones that are so cheap as to cost 1.
And in addition to all the graveyard synergies that are flying around, think of Hardened Scales. We've got Hollow One, even this Bridgevine deck. Terminus tears these decks apart.
I mean, I've had it stuck in hand at 6 mana enough times that I cannot fully agree with the
Never
statement.
happens. Never happens.
Never happens. But when you Miracle, it is very powerful.
So powerful.
By the way, the little synergy between Jason the Mind Sculptor and Search for Azcanta, and then Azcanta the Sunken Ruin.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You pop your dud cards on top, and then you can mill them away with the search here.
The sad part is you never get that much value because your opponents tend to concede at that point.
Yeah, that's the real rough part about playing these amazing cards, is that your opponents tend to kind of rain on your parade when it really starts going, you know?
Yeah, but with no Infect creature from Bradley Tinney, this is a really rough spot. Dan Lanfey, 9 poison. Well,
it's 1 less than 10. One fewer, excuse me, 1,000 pardons, 1 fewer than 10.
You mean 999 pardons?
That was pretty good. I like that one. Oh, some great gear from you today, Eduardo. What a joy it is. What a joy it is, my friend, to share the commentary booth with you.
We've come from far to do so we might as well enjoy it. But yeah, here, even the Noble Hierarch can act as a threat. It won't deal with Dan Lanfear's life total. That can happen.
Yeah, there is the secret mode, right? Secret mode, the Hierarch beats.
Right, but now pump spells have a lot less value now. I mean, Vines of Vastwood, Blossoming the Sand, still tons of value, but a pump spell on Noble Hierarch can deal with Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Well, let's see if he goes for it here. Lanthea will be in the process of sculpting a hand that he thinks can hustle and bustle against this Infect deck. I mean, look, he might just want to let the Jace go. You know, defending it against this Groundswell may be just too tall an order here. But it looks like an opt-in response, and he's put a Terminus on top as well, so that's going to take care of that. And this is another use for the card. It's just another 1-mana removal spell when you've got a Jace, when you've got opts, ways to enable it. And sure, you have to jump through a fair few hoops to get that done, but I mean, it happens.
I mean, it's so powerful it sees play in Legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, there you also have access to some other 1 blue mana spell that...
just actual Brainstorm there.
Well,
but a nice tidy 2-for-1 there with Groundswell also having no effect. And you would think Lanthea in the driver's seat from here on out, especially after this Azcanta has flipped.
Yeah, Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, Jace the Mind Sculptor. We're in locked territory. Even
and a Teferi as well. How about that one?
Yeah, even if Bradley Tinney finds an Infect creature, Jace's -1 does the job, and then you get access to removal. So much card advantage.
Yeah, it's just this is a beating here. This is a real evisceration of this Infect player. The good news for him, however, Bradley Tinney's teammate Brian Canal has won his game against John Rowe. Felix C, as we saw, got up against David Matsuka with Scapeshift. So these guys are looking to kind of uneven the scales here.
Yeah.
And see which team's going to have the advantage going into game number 2.
Yeah, I think this game's going to take a while, but I would be shocked if Bradley can take over. Dan Lanfey able to draw 2 extra cards per turn, but not just draw them, but also have selection. Yeah. It's not just draw 2 cards. It's draw 2 of the best cards that I have access to.
And once Teferi comes down as well, we're going to start seeing this absolute degeneracy, untapping Azcanta the Sunken Ruin to start drawing, up to 4 cards a turn as well, which is just bonkers.
Just cut it. This is too much.
It's too much. It's too much value, my friend. Too much value for mortal eyes. And now a Brainstorm as well, drawing 3 more. We're going to go to the end step, untap a couple of lands here, Slows to Colonnade, and of course the Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. Back to Tinney, 5 mana available. I don't know how much he's going to be able to do here to overcome these best of Super Friends. Teferi and Jace, really a 1-2 punch. Both recent additions to the modern card pool, and BFFs really from this point.
Yeah, and a lot of these control decks have had for so long the issue of finding a good win condition. They've had to play cards that are very subpar. I mean, Secure Their Waste is fine, but if it's the card you're relying on to win the game, that's a different call. Nah. And yeah, these Planeswalkers have allowed these decks to play win conditions that the control decks traditionally favor, win conditions that gain card advantage first. And, the game is won at some point.
At some point. Doesn't really matter how. And Celestial Colonnade, another example of that. It's just a good land, taps the blue and for white, just what you want. And then later, when you need a way to close out the game, it'll do it. Here's another way to close out the game, though, in the form of Vendilion Click. A nice instant speed threat that is going to eat removal spells a lot of the time, but still gives you an option to, sculpt the hand of your opponent.
And then negate, yeah. I mean...
Vines of Vastwood, Blossoming Defenses, and a Mutagenic Growth. And Lanthea says, you know what, buddy? You got it.
Yeah.
That looks like a great hand. I'm not going to touch it.
Right, and then can just activate Colonnade, attack with Click, draw some cards, and win the game.
Yeah, this one is this one's in the books. This one is in the books. You got, I mean, Lancia, should he so choose, can draw 5 cards a turn. 5 cards a turn if he so chooses. If he wants to type his mana with double as counter activations, 5 cards. Ridiculous. Again, obscene amounts of value. Please avert your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have an allergy to overwhelming value, because this one is just going to be all over you. And I tell you this, Bradley Tinney, he must have a rash flaring up, because he's had enough here, and the value train pulls into the station, and Tinney has to go to the sideboard here. So a handy win here for Lanthea, backing up Felix C. And Brian Canal, the only win on the right-hand side of the screen. Let's have a look at what he's up to here. Going to jump back over to David Matsuka and Felix Tse as they're in game number 2. Looks like a surgical extraction is in the middle of being resolved here.
Oh, on the right card, Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. Fulminator Mage getting rid of the Valakut from play.
Yeah.
And yeah, Prismatic Omen now, not exactly the card you want. And yeah, that killing the Valakut with Fulminator Mage plus Surgical is super powerful here. And Felix is in a lot of trouble. I
very much like how, did you see how Matsuka handed his deck back to Surgical, after the Surgical to shuffle it, but C had already picked up his hand and had inadvertently shuffled that. Like the muscle memory of when someone hands you your cards back after a Surgical, you pick them up and start shuffling. He did it to his hand instead of his deck. Anyway, we got it done. We shuffled up appropriately. And this one's going to be an uphill battle for C. Having said that, he does have multiple copies of Primeval Titan. And that may be another route to victory from him. Anything in the sideboard that jumps out of you here, Eduardo?
Oh, there's definitely one card that jumps at me. Emrakul, the Promised End.
Hello.
The only issue here, Felix just doesn't have a way to interact with this board, so first would have to draw one of those methods. There's not much. There's Anger of the Gods, there's Sweltering Swans, but you have to draw those like next turn.
Yeah.
Engineered Explosives is okay. Yeah. Just so much pressure. Liliana the Last Hope, not really the card you would want in this matchup. Probably came in because you feel that, say, Terminate or Dreadbore not the best.
Well, the thing is, I don't think people have built their sideboards to beat Scapeshift this weekend, and so there's not going to be a huge number of cards for them to necessarily bring in. And so a value engine like Liliana the Last Hope is just, an all-round good card. I don't think it's at its best for sure.
It's fine.
It's fine, exactly.
It would be like the type of card I would want to cut in a matchup like this, but if you have nothing else, it's okay. You can rebuy a Fulminator Mage, that's acceptable. But then again, people were expecting Tron, so Alpine Moon from David Marzuka's sideboard might come into play later.
All right. Yep, I don't hate that.
I think in game 3, though, this game looks pretty locked up for David. There are answers that Felix could do, but this board is really developed.
Here's one Reveille Boy now coming down, going to draw 3 cards for Marzuka, who I think was already hellbent, shifts it back to C again, who is very much pushing this big rock uphill, and he's decided that his arms are tight enough for him to concede. They're going to go to game number 3 now, as Marzuka, with that timely copy of Surgical Extraction, more or less snuffing out any hopes that C had an easy victory there.
Yeah, Fulminator Mage plus Surgical Extraction. I mean, Surgical Extraction is a reasonable card in a matchup like that. There's not many ways to get rid of Valakut, but when it happens, when you can get it with Fulminator and Surgical, that's a really powerful way to lock out the game.
So we are now back to Brian Canal and John Robe. Canal on white-blue control. His opponent playing, by the look of things, humans.
Yeah, and it looks like a fairly standard human slate. Yes, my hero with 2 Rivers of Gavany.
Riders Gavany, just trying to make you look good here, Eduardo.
Right, probably why they were this far. Not exactly the matchup where you would want it, but what? Yeah, wait. What?
So,
is somebody goldfishing?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how this has happened here. It looks like Raul may have kept the old loosey-goosey hand, because at the moment Vendilion Click is just on mono beatdowns. Let's have a look at the hand here.
We're definitely not taking anything here.
No, but you can keep that hand, and Ro very kind of
just shows it.
No,
he understands.
Just shows it. It's on on MTGO. Just reveal hand button. He's just mashing it as the V click comes across. I mean, at this point, it is going to be so hard for Ro to even get. He's going to have to go to discard here.
I mean, we're done.
Yeah. This is.
I don't dislike the keep if it was at 5 especially, and I think at 6.
It was a mulligan.
Yeah.
To 3.
To 3?
It was a mulligan to 3.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what are you hoping for otherwise? What, your basic plains or your basic island and a Riders of Gavany? That's not going to get you there.
Not sure why we have Ancestral Recall. This was closer to Mind Twist as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's not a pretty sight here for John Rowe. And I love the way that he's drawing his cards and putting them straight out in front of him. Sin Collector hits the bin. Sin Collector not doing much collecting this time around.
Yeah, there are sins, but there's no collection.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it here as we have Celestial Colonnade coming across with the click. This is unbelievable. He cannot find a land. He drew about 500,000 cards and couldn't find the land that he needed. As a result, a rather rueful John Rowe slaps his hand back on the top of his library. An easy win for Brian Canal. Hey, you take it, right? You take it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Land Fiancé are not going to be too hard on John Rowe for this one.
No, they're not going to go,
yeah.
Geez, Jono, mate, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Not drawing any lands? Oh, come on. No, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. That is the way the news goes every now and again. And unfortunately for John Rowe, he was at the wrong end of it this time. In any case, it's not over just yet. Both T and Lanthea have picked up a win. We move back now to T and Marzuka. Scapeshift versus Maru Pyromancer. It's good to see Marzuka was able to bounce back after a loss in game number 1, equalise, and we head to game number 3 now.
Scapeshift usually is really good against these mid-range strategies. So I would favor Felix in a matchup like this. Obviously, Fulminator Mage plus Surgical being very powerful, but you know these decks want to take specific cards and then get there with pressure down the line. The thing is, though, the top of the deck, every card is so powerful from the Scapeshift deck and Thoughtseize Inquisition, not exactly the cards to fight the top of the deck. Psychotic Episode was one of the I think it's the only card in Magic's history that allows you to look at your opponent's hand and top of the deck at the same time. We were talking about how powerful something like that would be.
Wow, that is a blast from the past. I've actually never seen that card before. You reveal your hand and the top card of your library, and you can Thoughtseize away one of them.
Yeah, it puts it on the bottom. Yeah, I mean,
it puts them on the bottom of the library.
I knew about that card because I did a lot of Time Spiral drafts, and it would always be in the pack.
Yeah.
Nobody would.
No one wanted it. Yeah. That's the classic 14th pick card there. Gee, that art is gross as well. Psychotic Episode is not a nice looking card.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy's been tied up with silly string. It's really not a good. He's not having a great time at all.
Yeah, and Aaron Forsythe actually tweeted about like what they try to do with Dominaria because they revisited it in Time Spiral. But one thing they did is Time Spiral was a very dark set. I liked it a lot for gameplay purposes, but flavor-wise, it was a very dark world.
Very grim.
Yes, and they felt that Dominaria being a much more positive and light-filled world ended up making the set desirable as a nostalgia one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was never around for the original sets that were played during Dominaria, like I don't know, Legions and all the rest of them from way back when. But I really did enjoy the lore, at least, of the Dominaria, and that sense of history as well that we had in revisiting the home of Magic there. Marzuka looks like he's gone down to 6. Not sure if he's content to keep the hand that he's got here. Looks like he is going to scry. That goes below decks. They're off to the races now. In game number 3 between Felix C on Scapeshift and David Marzuka on Maru Pyromancer. 2 of the more underplayed decks this weekend. Although I think something that's important to point out here, Eduardo, we're talking about how interesting it is that Scapeshift has done really well. Felix C might have lost every single game. He may be like 0-13 going in here, and his teammates are just on the mono carry. It's unlikely, but
it's possible.
It's possible. But no, I think Scapeshift was actually a decent choice.
It's okay. It's pretty weak though against the card Blood Moon that David Marzuka has in hand.
Relic to open things up here for T. On turn 2, he's got a Farseek. That's good stuff. Search for Tomorrow as well. Can be hard cast next turn. Marzuka with just the Sacred Foundry go.
Interesting to note that Felix decided to play Relic of Progenitus rather than Search for Tomorrow, being suspended, probably valuing the ability to remove any incidental value because of fetch land. You want to get fetch land plus the spell. So that's why you would see Relic early. It's debatable as to whether that is desirable, but it's close.
Just activate your Relic often. Activate it early, activate it often, my friends, when you're playing this card. And, I mean, we could see T doing it here. He should, in fact, do it here to get rid of that Bloodstained Maya. He may wait until the end step, of course, before he does something like that. But still, you can't activate your Relics often enough.
Yeah, and here Felix will go to 4 mana, be able to have a Wood Elves or a Search for Tomorrow with a 2 mana search spell. Would be able to go really high, but then Blood Moon is going to come down next turn.
And that's rough stuff here as we see Bloodstained Maya hit the exile zone. Young Pyromancer at the play now for Marzuka.
Oh, and basic Plains, basic Swamp.
And the Blood Moon. Oh, wow. Oh, So easy. So easy for Marzuka. A panoply of colours available to him. Here's Wood Elves. Let's see what Sega is going to go and get here. Blood Moon's going to be a hard one for him to overcome, but with that basic forest already in play, he's in a decent spot. Wood Elves can fetch any forest. Doesn't have to be a basic one.
Yeah. Something I pointed out earlier, I said that David Marzuka had Alpine Moon. That's not actually correct. It's the Scapeshift player that does. That's technology against the Tron decks.
Oh, sure.
Because it's asymmetrical,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they've always kind of wanted that effect. Like, Scapeshift would love to play a Blood Moon effect for certain matches, but obviously you can't because of how your own deck is affected.
So Cinderglade, the pick here for Wood Elves. Of course, it can fetch any forest, basic or otherwise.
And here, with Blood Moon coming down, we're going to look at a very small number of cards from Felix Say.
So Tsi did not choose to suspend that Search for Tomorrow there.
Mostly because of the Relic of Progenitus activation.
Okay, he's looking to draw an extra card here. That makes good sense. All right.
Yeah, and there's nothing... I mean, you can play it next turn if you draw Scapeshift anyways. Like, you go to 6 mana, you have 6 lands, you play it, you go to 7 with free tapped, 4 Scapeshift, you're good. So it's fine to not suspend the Search for Tomorrow here.
All right.
I mean, you could get it discarded. That's a risk. So that would be the main reason to suspend it. But you could also get your Relic blown out by a Kolaghan's Command. So you're kind of trying to decide what you're playing against, but Blood Moon is going to go...
Yeah, but look at this. Marzuka going and fetching that second swamp off of his Bloodstained Mire. Here's a Blood Moon now, and I bet C is thinking, geez, I probably should have got that other basic forest I'm playing. Anyway, he's still not completely locked out thanks to this Blood Moon, but we are going to see the Relic tapped to get rid of the Bloodstained Mire. C thinking about whether he wants to exile it to draw a card. He chooses not to. It's back to C now.
Yeah, at least Search for Tomorrow allowing to get that second forest.
Basic, yeah.
We're looking here at Tarless Tracker, Obstinate Bailoff, Vivian Reed.
Yeah, nice piece of technology out of the board there.
It probably comes in just because it's really powerful against the mid-range decks. It's hard to attack a Planeswalker, and you can grind out some advantage, but the minus mode allows you to deal with any permanent that may be an issue as well.
Yeah, and actually including Blood Moon, which is actually quite key here.
Yeah.
I imagine it'll have brought in cards like Reclamation Sage as well.
Yeah. Well, there's actually none, but Emrakul the Promised Land, I'm not sure if it would come in. It's not at its best in a matchup like this. It's usually, you would want it against, say, a control deck.
So T plays his Search for Tomorrow, finds it in the form of another basic forest, and shifts back to Marzuka, who, again, has a nice clock with Young Pyromancer, although he's going to start to need to, actually get some value off the 1-2 here.
So we have Fulminator Mage, Kolaghan's Command, and Bedlam Reveler, along with Liliana the Last Hope. So, okay, we get to cast one spell. Bedlam Reveler is not that spell. It costs 8 mana. So you're left with Liliana the Last Hope, Kolaghan's Command, and the other card. Sorry, we'll get to. Here, Kolaghan's Command is not going to do much, since Felix does have 2 cards in hand, but you might want to wait a bit just to get more information, just for Felix to naturally play the lands and maybe nab a key card in top deck mode. Kolaghan's Command able to pull a card during the draw step. I kind of like Liliana the Last Hope. Felix, needs to draw something, but won't be able to develop on the board. So by playing Liliana the Last Hope, killing Wood Elves, you start building towards that ultimate ability, and that might be the right line. Passing is interesting, though. I'm not sure about passing the turn here. I think the right line would have been to go for a Liliana the Last Hope and start ticking it up. There's not really an effect that ends. You have access to black, yeah, so I kind of would have liked it here.
Well, as it is, back to T, who plays another way to fetch out a basic here in the form of Sakura Tribe Elder. Only playing 2 forests, however, so that Elder can only go and get another mountain.
Yeah, sorry. The last card in hand was the Fulminator Mage I mentioned earlier. It's a lot weaker in this situation since obviously Blood Moon does it. Okay, so we are destroying Relic of Progenitus just to get rid of it from the board. Obviously, Felix is, going to be able to sacrifice it to draw a card, but it's such a problem for David that he decides to remove it. That said, with almost no other instants or sorceries, I kind of like... I still like the Liliana, but it's okay. I think David Marzuka is going to develop Liliana of Last Hope next turn.
Another land off the top here for T, and he discards it as well. Wooded Foothills. thanks to the Colligan's command. Going to get an elemental token as well, thanks to the young Pyromancer. So finally we're seeing young Peasy actually do his job, step up to the stage, start busting on the mic. Let's see what Marzuka's next move is here. You mentioned he's got a Liliana in hand?
Yeah, I did. A Liliana of the Last Hope, it looked like. I think Liliana of the Veil would have definitely been slammed down faster than we could have tracked with the camera. But, okay, Inquisition of Kozilek. I mean, you have to choose this turn between two effects, but chances are Felix did not have a card stuck in hand that couldn't have been played. So I don't think Inquisition... I mean, you could play Inquisition of Kozilek with a view. Well, you get a 1-1, but it's also what could Felix have drawn? But if it was Thoughtseize, that's a harder... Like, that's a much more interesting discussion. But I think with Inquisition, the class of cards you're getting is not generally useful. A Land Searcher is not relevant here.
No.
So I'd rather just, again, see deployment on the board.
3 mana. It is going to be the last hope. Get rid of the Wood Elf, so wiser choice there for Marzuka.
Yeah. And I think this is needed since David Marzuka doesn't have too much pressure. And going towards the Emblem with a Blood Moon in play, that's a winning game plan right there.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it might take a couple of turns here, but all the same, whatever. You know, Marzuka's firmly in control of this game. And if he wins it, that's going to be the match as well, with Canal also having picked up a 2-0 victory against John Rowe, who was very unlucky not to find lands after a string of horrific mulligans. A Secure Tribal off the top, not the draw that C wanted to see here.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Felix should will play the Tribe Elder, but then I don't think it's correct to play any other lands, especially if you boarded in Tireless Tracker. You want to keep as many land drops as you can in your hand.
Draw as many cards, yeah.
Right, and then Colligan's Command can't lock you out of top decks. So I like this. Secure Tribe Elder, pass the turn, don't play a land. I think you can play the fetch land as well, since with Tireless Tracker you still get the land drop and you still have a card to discard. But I wouldn't want Felix to play that Cinderglade, though. So,
back to Marzuka. What's he found off the top here? A Faithless Looting. It's not bad.
Oh, actually, my bad. With Blood Moon, then the Wooded Foothills can't sack anyways.
Yep, just a basic mountain. Well, not a basic mountain, just a mountain.
Yeah, we're just forgetting, the most important permanent in play.
Yeah, it's easy to do. It's easy to do. Faithless Looting now as well for Marzuka, who is constrained of all things on red mana after having cast this this Blood Moon.
Yeah, the fetching the basics plus having them in hand. Yeah, you can see Blood Moon is by far one of the best cards in this matchup.
Finds a basic mountain off the top. Let's see what he wants to do with it. Has to discard 2 after casting that Faithless Looting, of course. Tell you what, got a bit of a messy bedroom here, this his side of the battlefield. Lands tapped askew and awry. Still in the midst of resolving this Faithless Looting. All he has to do now really is just not lose, right?
I mean, yeah, you start putting on pressure. So you start plussing Liliana, getting rid of Tribe Elders, and then you start attacking with those elementals. You put pressure, you deal with the board, and you hope Felix doesn't top deck what he needs.
So discards what looks like a Thoughtseize. Might be a Collective Brutality. It was a black card anyway. Didn't see what the second card that was that he discarded. Away goes the Secure Tribe Elder. It's going to be sacrificed. Go and get another land here.
Yeah.
And there we saw the Tireless Tracker right at the bottom of the deck. Oh, and see, looked at the top cards. Never look. Never look. Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah. At this point, Felix looking for a powerful creature. Primeval Titan would be okay. 6/6 Trampler still being quite large on this board.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Tireless Tracker is also okay. Obstinate Bailoff would be okay. Like, all these cards are okay.
Yeah, there's nothing that's going to come off the top of the library. And he rolls up his sleeve. This is going to be a big draw step for him. Let's see what he can find. Oh, it's prime time.
It's prime time?
Let me just check my watch. Yes, indeed. I haven't updated it to Eastern summertime yet, but I can tell you it is, in fact, prime time. Let's get it done here, says Felix. See, have a look at what's going on in your graveyard. But this is the first step. As we say, it's good. It's okay.
It at least puts pressure on Liliana Last Hope. So now we're going to see probably David Marzuka plussing the Liliana on the Primeval Titan. 4/5 Trample is not going to really punch through onto her. And then at that point, you can just, you get the Valakutes here because...
Yeah, just in case.
They're like one of the worst lands to draw.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
And this way, you're not exactly going to get them surgical, are you? You can even recognize that David Marzuka discarded the Fulminator Mage because David understands that with Blood Moon in play, it's fine, but if Blood Moon ever came off, the game would just end.
So you need something like a Vivian Reed. That's going to be the first step here.
Yeah, I think it will have come in. This is definitely a matchup where you would want something like Vivian.
Yeah, just in that grindy mid-range oriented games. So we can see now, for those eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed that Dan Lanthea won his match 2-0 against Bradley Tinney. So now it all comes down to this. Tsi and Marzuka, whoever wins this game will win the match and almost certainly secure a top 4 berth for his team. So
it's not even almost. It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah. Barring, well, let's just put it this way.
Only a Sith speaks in absolutes.
That's an excellent quote. And we're very good at Magic.
Do you know what annoys me about? Do you know what annoys me about that quote? That is an absolute. Only a Sith speaks in absolute. So you're a Sith then? No. Well, you just spoke in an absolute. What's going on?
Most Magic players are. They always say that cards are amazing. It's very
most Magic players are Sith.
Sith adjacent, I guess. You know, the desire to always say that a card is amazing or very bad, when a lot of the times cards are just marginal.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. I didn't realize most Magic players walked the dark path. Here we have Bedlam Reveler, which is a nice one. 3 freshies off the top. Thoughtseize, Lightning Bolt, and a Black Cleave Cliffs here.
Yeah, and this is why David Martsuka destroyed the Relic of Progenitus all those turns back. It was to accumulate enough instants and sorceries so that Bedlam Reveler could come down and start generating value. And now Primeval Titan can't really attack. Bedlam Reveler plus Lightning Bolt plus Liliana the Last Hope mean that Primeval Titan won't be able to deal damage to Liliana. And yeah, that means that Primeval Titan is kind of on blocking duty.
Well, even on defense, as a 6/6, certainly a sizable threat here. But of course, it's at its best when it's going out for lunch and getting busy with those attack steps. And C really does need to start to string together some draws here. This one is beginning to pull further and further away from him.
Yeah.
And looks like Liliana the Last Hope has gone after prime time, so he's down to a 4/5.
Yeah, and this is because any spell with Bedlam Reveler would have totally absorbed the damage, and you can combine with Lightning Bolt to kill a Primeval Titan, making any attack just get 2 lands.
That Black Cleave Cliff should still enter tapped, right?
With Blood Moon had some slight rule change.
Oh, of course.
A few months ago.
Yeah. It used to enter tapped, but now.
Yeah, so it's lost all abilities. It's just the mountain. So
right.
any land that's coming into play, treat it as if a mountain had come into
from
play.
the very beginning. Yeah, guys, I remember they changed that recently. It affected Cavern of Souls as well.
Yeah, it had some
off the top
weird
here.
interactions. It's just a cleaner way to do it.
That's rough stuff for Felix to see as he finds another land. Gross.
I mean, you need those lands in your deck.
I mean, he's playing a lot of them. He's playing about 50.
50?
I think so.
All right.
51. 9 non-land cards, 2 of which are on the battlefield, 2 are in the graveyard.
It's just shy of double what might be the actual number, but sure. But yeah, here, I mean, this game just revolved around Blood Moon. I'd like to say it's the other cards are important, right? Young Pyromancer's building up a board. Bedlam Reveler refilled the hand. Liliana, the Last Hope, is going towards a situation which is which generates inevitability. So again, David Martsuka, all these cards are okay, but if it wasn't for Blood Moon, just no chance in this game. And it's really going to come down to this Blood Moon sticking. I mean, if Felix ever top decks a way to get rid of it, then you just attack with Primeval Titan, and that is in a ton of Molten Lava. So I think this turn, I think David Martsuka is roughly 3 turns off, if I'm not mistaken. With the board as it stands, Liliana Last Hope takes 2 turns to ultimate. That gets zombies. With the board as is, let's see, Bedlam Reveler getting blocked by Primeval Titan. That would leave through 6 damage. I guess 2 zombies, 10. You could attack with the elementals for marginal damage. Actually, I think that's with an attack from the elementals. I think that David has access to a 3-turn clock here. So Felix has 3 turns to find an answer to that Blood Moon or take over with another permanent.
Well, let's see what Marzuka's going to get up to this turn at least. He's certainly taking his time, fiddly fighting around with those lands. Looks like another Black Cleave Cliffs in hand for him. Thoughtseize Lightning Bolt. Oh, no, sorry, Blood Crypt, excuse me. All the red-black lands look so similar.
Yeah.
It's all like mainly red and black with a little bit of yellow or orange flown in. Riley Knight, color expert. Born with a genetic deficiency that disallows me from actually seeing color properly, and I'm here analyzing the color palette of lands.
Fair enough. Maybe there was no need to play the Blood Crypt here with a mountain in play. You could just flash back the Faithless Looting first and then make that decision, but that's okay. These tournaments are long. I'm definitely not going to fault anyone for fault anyone here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, David is just aiming to build a big enough board to win in free turns. It could be 2 with the right top deck. If you will find a way to kill the Primeval Titan, then you can start attacking in with other... I mean, Bedlam Reveler might be able to go to 6-7 this turn with access to Lightning Bolt and Thoughtseize, but Secure Tribalder will be killed by Liliana Last Hope. I think David is securing with that Lingering Souls Lightning Bolt, I think David is securing a 2-turn clock, which gives 1 less draw step to the team of Road Sail Lanfear.
Was going to go for the Primeval Titan, which should give the Secure Tribalder an opportunity to chump block here.
Yeah, I really like...
It's a bit all over the place here. I'm not 100... You know, you're talking about all these different lines that they could take, and they seem to be sort of, you know, at a buffet dinner, sort of tasting a chicken wing off one plate, you know, a stuffed mushroom off the other one, bit of cheese and capsicum off another plate. They're not really committing to one dish. You know, they're not picking up the plate full of prawns and sitting in front of it at their table.
Yeah, I mean, and that can happen with 2 or 3 people on the same match, debating different lines. It's why it's usually good to, when you have 3 people on the same match, have each person look at a different plan rather than the same one. So one player thinks of the plan, how can we have a 2-turn clock? The other one's, how can we sculpt the board? How can we prevent things? So, yeah, I think in these team situations, you usually want to try to have each player on a plan. But, yeah, the Bedlam Reveler here, a 5-6 between that Lingering Souls and that Faithless Looting Flashback, plus the Lightning Bolt in hand.
All right, that's a lot of damage in addition to those elemental tokens coming across as well. Looks like we're getting so close to an attack here. This turn has gone on for quite some time. Empires have risen and fallen, and glaciers have, you know, cloven their way through the landscape. But we've finally gotten to an attack now as Marzuka sends in the clowns. Let's see what the response is from T. He only has the 1 blocker.
I think here Primeval Titan at 6-6 can safely block an elemental, since Liliana the Last Hope was used to kill Sakura Tribalder. I don't think you can block the Bedlam Reveler here. While it does prevent the most damage this turn, by doing so, you leave yourself cold. You have... Actually, wait a second. If you draw an answer to Blood Moon, you still have that fetch land in play plus a Cinderglade. So that would be 24. So, okay, fine. So we have lethal already. So the Primeval Titan can prevent damage. Let's say
with the quadruple Valakut.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course.
So if Primeval Titan blocks Bedlam, we take 4, going to 14 with Lightning Bolt 11. We don't know about the Lightning Bolt, but you then have all the tokens. I think this is just a 2-turn clock, kind of no matter what. I guess Felix Say could top deck a creature. Okay, I think the right line here is indeed to block the Bedlam Reveler. If you top deck a creature, then you get to do potentially another block, and that gives you a turn. So I think this is the right block, but David Marzuka and Canal Tinney have found a line that gives a 2-turn clock, and that was the most important part of this turn. No matter what, just getting that to that 2-turn clock, that's what mattered. All
right, well, got there in the end now as a Lightning Bolt goes upstairs. The Elementals get in. The Bedlam Reveler does not, but that is the end of Primeval Titan. Let's see what C has on top of the library here. Big rep. What do you got? It's a mountain.
And we're done.
That is just about that, my friends. It looks like Brian Canal, David Marzuka, and Bradley Tinney are going to slam themselves into the top 4 of this tournament. Felix C, his hand looks a little bit more like a foot at this stage as he plays a Cinderglade. It's not looking good for him and his team as Marzuka here has enough damage to pile on for 11 and put C down to 0. And with that will, of course, end his tournament hopes. That's the end of the... this is the end of the Swiss. We only have 14 rounds in team events. Marzuka does a quick count. X equals 11. Enough. Big attacks. And C's response, let's see what it is after having been locked out from turn 3 with this Blood Moon. Even with 4 Valakuts in play here. C with a massive attack coming across the battlefield. He's making his opponent work for it. Oh my goodness me. As the creatures finally get in there. He looks at the 2 mountains in his hands and finally extends the hand in concession. Congratulations, Brian Canal, David Marzuka, and Bradley Tinney into the top 4 of GP Detroit. Well done indeed to those chaps, and we're excited to see how their decks fare in the finals here.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting collection of decks, right? We talked about all these teams are bringing Cavern of Souls on one table, and then They bring Ancient Strains on the other, and then they have a third deck, which is usually Celestial Colonnade.
Yeah.
They've just gone
completely.
I mean, yeah, the combination of, we have the paper here, Infect, Mardu Pyromancer, and okay, there's a Celestial Colonnade deck at the end, but we'll
yeah, of course.
you know, Hieroglyphic Illumination.
They know what's up.
Hieroglyphic Illumination makes the top 4 of
Yeah.
a modern tournament.
Yeah.
Swallow your words from
Once
yesterday.
again, that's beautiful. Anyway, my friends, we've got to go to a break. We are going to be back with Time Walk Magic, and of course, after that, the top 4. So stick around. We'll be back after this. Back to live coverage of GP Detroit. My name's Riley, joined by the Platinum Pro Eduardo Sajgalik. We've got one more match to show you here before we get underway with our top 4. Many of the top 4 places have already been decided, but let's get underway now with Time Walk Magic that's going to figure out our final open spot here. Got the teams, we got the teams sat down, ready to go. Got this one in the can, of course. Time Walk Magic coming to you as a replay. But let's get to it, see how things panned out between Davis, Batesh, Pastor against Parson, Willie, and Camperman. Looks like Batesh and Willie on diametrically opposed decks here. Celestial Colonnade against Blackcleave Cliffs.
They're even matching our ties and outfits.
Oh, that's true, but I'm on the wrong side. No. No, I've got to at least maintain a veneer of impartiality here as we see Faithless Looting coming for Batesh.
Batesh choosing to play one of the decks we called out on not having a presence. Vengevine. Or Dredgevine, so to speak.
Dredgevine, Bridgevine.
Bridgevine is probably closer to reality. Not many dredge cards.
Just
literally, Vengevine and Bridge from Below hit the graveyard.
There you go, Bridgevine. Bridgevine it is, ladies and gentlemen. We've locked that one in. Now those colours to the mast. Willie, on the other hand, could be playing one of two things, of course, Jeskai or...
Oh, wow, what an opening.
White-blue control. But look at this from Batesh. He's got not only the turn 1 Faithless Looting, discarding Bridge and Vengevine, but also 2 0-cost creatures, both of which enter the battlefield and die immediately. So how about 8 power on turn 1, 4 of which has haste?
It's like Hollow 1 and Hollow 2.
I guess so. I guess it's pretty good. I guess it's pretty good as Willie finds a way to at least stem the bleeding a little bit. Let's see what Batesh has to follow it up with here.
Yeah, and drawing Vengevine is certainly not what you want to do. So in a way, that Oust was actually much more powerful than Path to Exile would have been in this scenario.
Yeah, casting a Path to Exile so early in the game is often a little bit of a liability, but these zombies are still going to demand an answer. Here's Insolent Neonate. Across comes Batesh for another 4. This is on turn 2, remember. Willie already down to 12 as he starts his 3rd turn. This has been a massive onslaught from this Bridgevine deck, and one of the reasons that we're seeing it facing off for a win and in, I should say, for top 4 here. Let's see what Willie's up to. He is playing 4 copies of Terminus. That's going to be his best sort of, backdoor to victory.
Yeah, and very important here, Jeskai has a lot of trouble against Vengevine. You do have Path to Exile, but you're not playing Terminus. So your Supreme Verdicts are just not going to do the job against a deck with Bridge from Below. Often with Jeskai, you kind of have to play Snapcaster and Bolt it yourself so that you can get removed Bridge. But the blue-white deck has the tools for the job. All the removal exiled, and a Terminus can undo a ton of work.
Yeah, even something like a Detention Sphere is just so good against, these zombie tokens, and even just snagging a Vengevine is fine as long as it's being exiled like that. Field of Ruin, the 3rd play for Willie. And I don't see him having too much to do here as a Bridge from Below is discarded to the Insolent Neonate. And because of this
interaction.
Man, this weird way that the rules work means that even though you sacrificed the Insolent Neonate when the Bridge wasn't in the bin, if you discard the Bridge
it's actually worded in a weird way to interact as well as it can with Bridge from Below, because you discard the card first and then sacrifice it. So the Bridge goes to the graveyard, and then the Bridge sees the Neonate being sacrificed. Because you pay the cost in the order.
We got a red alert here. We got a red alert. Woo, woo! Lands before spells. Alert. Josh Willie, what are you doing, my friend? As a Vendilion click comes down.
The most important part of this Vendilion click is not, the disruption of the hand. The most important part is that once a zombie rumbles in and trades with a Vendilion click, the Bridge from Below, both of them will go away.
Okay, crisis averted here as Willie puts the 3-1 to the forefront of the table. Do you take anything here? We just let Sleeping Dogs lie.
I'm looking at the match. I probably would not take anything here. In hand is Goblin Bushwhacker. It's a 1/1 from 1 red, which is not exactly a powerful card. But with Kicker, it gives +1/+0 to the whole team. So you definitely do not want to. But Viscera Seer here was probably the consideration.
Man, that's
because
rough,
you can sacrifice it before damage in order to keep both those Bridges from Below in play or in the graveyard. You never want to really play Bridge from
you never
Below.
want them in play. They're effectively in play when they're in the bin, which is paradoxically enough.
It's why I like the future side border. It's because of the mana symbols being on the side. You can tell from the graveyard. Jace the Mind Sculptor came to the wrong fight, though.
Yeah, this is not the place for Jace here. He's gonna have a hard time getting it done. We may see just an unsummon here just to stem the bleeding. Yeah, look at that. I mean, it's good, obviously, against tokens. Just a straight up removal spell there.
I think at the end of turn... Oh, we have to mute because the top 4 is being announced.
The top 4 announcement, so we're back in a second. course, the finals to wrap things up in this this unified modern format.
Yeah, and here, that Mantis Rider is essentially the champion we are looking for. It flies, it's large, and every other creature on the ground can block. However big that champion of the parish get, it doesn't have trample. Oh, Thalia Heretic Kafar. We've seen this card before. Really the kind of mirror breaker, but possibly a little slow right now. Might as well get that Thalia Guardian of Fraben in with Aether Vial.
And this is what we see here, these locked up boards where neither player can really get ahead. We see an attack with the champion of the parish, but the Campermen are obviously more than free to block here. Something that makes a big difference. I mean, we've talked about this already, Eduardo, the fact that in a situation where someone's playing spirits instead of humans, they can dictate the pace or the texture of a game because they're the ones who decide when they can attack.
Yeah, and the Mantis Rider is essentially the spirit of the human stack.
Yeah, the only one, right?
Well, you also have Stormcrow. Kitesail Freebooter in a matchup like this. It's actually why you see people cutting Meddling Mage and Thalia over Freebooter. As much as we've joked about Stormcrow, 1/2 flyer for 2, the fact is a flyer is that important that you sometimes prioritize it over Meddling Mage or Thalia Guardian of Fraben.
Looks like Pastor has seen enough, however, as he has the life total disadvantage, and Campman had the board advantage there, so that is the way that it goes. And Pastor has picked up the win there. Surely not. Was that the way that it went? All right. Well, there you go. Someone. that's how the news goes there. Let's move over now to Andrew Davis and Ken Parson. White-blue control facing off against. Oh no, it's Tron. Look at this. The triple power plant draw for the Tron player, but a Sylvan Scrying might change that here.
It looks like there's an Urza's Tower, though, below. So it seems like...
Tron online. Yeah, look at that. Okay.
Ken just doesn't have access to a spell. Or Haymaker, I guess, would be more accurate than any spell.
So let's see what's up here now with Andrew Davis.
Andrew with Search for Iskanta, or Iskanta the Sunken River. Yeah, Wormcoil Engine in this matchup is as close to a 6/6 for 6.
Path to Exile, nice and tidy off the top here for Davis, who cracks his Polluted Delta as well. Unfortunately tapped... Oh, dear. Oh, Davis. He tapped both of his white sources while activating Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. So if he wants to path at this turn, it's going to cost him 2 life. But no, he's just going to wait. All right. He's going to leave the path on the table and cast it when he so chooses. But again, I don't think this Wormcoil is going to ever connect. No, yeah. Look at that. Can't even be fully tapped before it is fully exiled. Parson with another land to fetch out here, however. Another Path to Exile off the top for Davis.
By the way, Andrew Davis is coming over to watch the match and was asking if we commented on that little moment. We did.
Yeah, so behind us, Andrew Davis standing right behind us. And yeah, my friend, we noticed. There you go, but still in great shape here. Fighting the good fight against the bad guy of the format here as we have Oblivion Stone coming down. Not the best card against white-blue control, though it can still get a fair bit of work done here. And let's see how Dave is going to deal with this particular one. Of course, it removes more or less anything that you care to put on the battlefield. Here's a search for Azcanta for Davis now. Back now to Parson, who has been a little bit short on action.
Yeah, there's not much going on. I like that we saw Andrew Davis's Logic Knot. I mean, you get to fire off a lot of your graveyard, but that's a lot of mana that you need to make Ken pay.
It's odd that you'll get use out of a Logic Knot this late in the game, but it looks like Davis, again, managed to get it done. Here is a Walking Ballista for $500,000. And enough to trigger the Sanctum of Ugin. That's important why 8 mana was used to cast it there.
Yeah, and the reason you see it for 8 is so that you can cast the World Breaker, but also not to run into a Logic Knot. World Breaker, really good recursive threat here. But again, Andrew Davis has access to the card Path to Exile in the deck.
And also Terminus in hand, which is just a nice way to deal with both of these creatures here. Azcanta the Sunken Ruin is going to be targeted, however, thanks to the World Breaker ability. See if Davis wants to activate it in response. Oh, and only taps his blue lands this time. What a pro. What a champ. Once bitten, twice shy as Jace the Mind Sculptor comes off the top.
Yeah, and here Terminus would get rid of these threats since Ken doesn't have access to 5 mana to blow up this Oblivion Stone. And that was one line, right? If you wanted to play around Terminus, you could have had Oblivion Stone at 5 and be able to blow up the World Breaker in response to Terminus and essentially continue the train rolling.
So Jace the Mind Sculptor taken off the search for Azcanter as the World Breaker. It's a path to exile from Davis. He is doing a good job of containing the threats of Ken Parson, although on 12, he's going to have to be mindful of his life total, especially with that Walking Ballista there.
Yeah, Walking Ballista, well, Andrew Davis kind of has to deal with it this turn. Okay, so we got Snapcaster Mage.
Another path to exile here. I love the way that Davis is using these resources against his Tron opponent. I have to say, I think that the matchup is it favours white-blue across 3 matches. I think in game number 1 it's tricky, but once a lot of dead removal comes out, extra counter spells, what have you, I think it's a good spot to be in, which is unbelievable considering how lopsided the matchup was just a few short months ago before we had Field of Ruin and other cards like that in the format.
Yeah, it really depends on how much main deck counter magic you have. If you could, there are situations where you can just deal with every threat. Like Wormcoil Engine is not a problem. No,
not a difficult card to deal with. And nor is Jace the Mind Sculptor when you've got an Oblivion Stone. Here's Khan, however. What's Davis got to say about this one?
He says, sadly, I am okay with this.
Very little. Very little to say about it, indeed, as another island's fetched out.
Yeah, but the Celestial Colonnade is able to at least take out Karn.
Yep. Yeah, of course, thanks to the minus ability of Khan. It's gone down to 3. So a Celestial Colonnade going to get busy.
Yeah, and because Celestial Colonnade is around, there's definitely an argument against a control opponent to plus the Karn here. But I think Ken just wanted to get rid of that search for Scanna. That was more like trading Karn for a Scanna the Sunken Ruin and tapping out Andrew this turn was probably just better.
Slams that Jace Fate Seal as well. I love it. I love the aggression. Wants to end the game nice and quickly here, does Andrew Davis. And is this a surgical here? What's going on? No, he's just sort of the graveyard. Okay, and found all the Karns. Counted out all the Karns. Did a bit of Karn counting there. So opt now for Davis. Scries. See if he can find what he needs to put this one in the books. And a Field of Ruin going to go after an Urza's Tower. Straight up strip mine here for Davis. He's very happy about that, but doesn't have a basic to search out. He's already got them all out on the battlefield, but all the same, nice way to disrupt the mana of the Tron player. Parson draws. What can he find here? Not much by the look of things. Shifts it back to Davis. Jace the Mind Sculptor off the top. That's a ninth one. Another Fate Seal. Oh, leaves it on top. That's never a good sign for an opponent here. Finds a land. Davis there searching for the 7 on a 6-sided die. It ultimately got the better of him. Had to bring another die into it. See a D12 now.
So both the Davis Planeswalker and Jace the Mind Sculptor at 7 loyalty?
Yep. A nice bit of symmetry there as Celestial Colonnade gets across. Chromatic Star off the top, immediately cycled away. And a Chromatic Sphere now.
You can just see the velocity of the Tron deck in action, right?
Yeah. It gets to a point where they're playing effectively a 40-card deck. Vendilion Click as well for some extra pressure.
I wonder if Ken can assemble the full Tron.
That would be tough considering some of the lands are in the bin. But that would be quite remarkable, the full 12-land Tron package. But no, Parson doesn't look to be able to do that just yet. And I've just been told, my friends, that I'm actually at liberty to announce the final top 4 of GP Detroit. And the reason for that is we've got a big M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong twist ending here, my friends. Sixth Sense Village, let's get to it, because neither Davis, Patesh, Pastor or Parson, Willie and Camperman actually made it in.
Yeah, so essentially here, a sequence of results has meant that the team of Rowe, say Lanfier, was able to get into the top 4 at 34 points.
Yeah. So this means here, as we see Davis take it out in style, good to see him get it done at long last. In position number 1, Damodar Rosa, Nas and Pardee on 34 points. Also Road Sea Lanthea on 34 points. In third place, Corson, Perez and Lopez, the team that we didn't get a chance to look at this round. They've made it into third place after a good result in the final round. And Parson, Willie and Camperman ultimately lock up the top 4. Am I looking at the right page here? I'm not looking at the right page. I'm a fool, my friends. I'm an idiot. I'm going to pass to Eduardo to announce the real top 4. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So Riley discussed the round 13 standings.
It's right in front of me on the desk. I was like right sitting in front of me here. Oh, my goodness.
It's all right. We got rank 1, Canal, Marzuka, Lozano and Tini, so that was the match
we saw beforehand.
Demo Da Rosa, Nas, and Party. They came second. Really good tournament from them. They drew with Corson, Perez, and Lopez in this last match. So Corson, Perez, Lopez coming in 4th place. And Rhodes Lanfier, with their excellent tiebreakers and free teams at 34 points, managed to come into 3rd place.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got you. The wrong standings was the twist all along. You expected me to read the right standings, and I M. Night Shyamalan you double as many times as you thought you were going to get M. Night Shyamalan ding-donged. I got you. No, I didn't. I'm just a fool.
While there's nonsense on the other side, Forrest Camperman here has a pretty commanding board position with Kellen Pastor just having a Mantis Rider in hand. And as important as that card is, Forrest Camperman is way too far ahead here. So I think Kellen Pastor is going to fall down to Forrest here, and that will be Forrest Camperman taking down the match, at least in the Humans Mirror. I believe. I mean, it would take that would be an incredible reversal. But with Kellen Pastor at 3, Forrest Camperman at 13, and just the board position that favors Forrest so much, I think Forrest Camperman is going to take this one down.
It looks like it really. That would be the way that it seems to be panning out here. Pastor without too much action going on. Militia Bugle looks to change that perhaps. 4 cards off the top. Let's see if we can find Reflector Mage amongst the options available to him. And he's going to take it. Powerful card from both of the Gatewatch, ultimately banned in Standard. And an Is It Staticaster for Camperman, who has a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, as long as I mean,
Attacks
we know the hand.
Just about 5 times there with the Mantis Rider, which is enough for Pastor to ultimately wrap things up here.
Well, losing the game here in the match.
And unfortunately, that's the way that it goes there for both these teams, neither of which make it into the top 4. Just to remind you, Grand Prix Detroit 2018, round 14, standing by rank, active 2018 0909, Canal Marzuka, Lozano, Tini, Damo Da Rosa, Nas Pardi, 3rd place, Routzy, Lanthia, and 4th, Corson, Perez, Lopez. That is the way it goes. There go the round 13 pairings. They're out of here. I'm not going to do that one again. Anyway, let's move over now. Ralph Patesh and Josh Willie here. And it is, as you can see, pretty commanding board position here with these recursive creatures, Bloodgust and Grave Crawlers, facing off against Willie on white-blue control. But here's a nice one in Detention Sphere.
I mean, it's in play. I'm not...
Oh, he's not casting it. What? Okay, he's just moving lands in front of spells. All right, good stuff. That's good from Willie. I think I get the suspicion that that Detention Sphere was used to clean up a bunch of 2/2 zombies previously.
Yeah, with some the Bridge from Belows were just discarded, so it may also be that it was sacrificed to something like Visceraseer. So probably Josh Willie went to get the Visceraseer with the Detention Sphere and was unable to.
And yeah, that makes sense. All right. Snapcaster Mage now.
Yeah, Snapcaster just blocking as a 2/1. Not something you might see as often. I mean, the Path to Exile here, but the value of Snapcaster Mage dying is so high because it essentially exiles those 2 Bridge from Belows.
And it's going to be able to block, flashback a Path to Exile here. Gravecrawler gets across.
Yeah, and here, I like this play, like killing the Bloodghast that's about to be exiled. So you get the Bloodghast back, you get 4 zombies. Sure, I mean, you get 6 zombies, actually, since the Bloodghast... Actually, 1 second. They die at the same time. Both triggers are on the stack, and normally... I'm just trying to remember. There's definitely an interaction where Bridge gets exiled and you don't get the tokens. It doesn't seem to be the case here.
Willie off the top, a short little message of prayer there, but couldn't find what he needed. Search for Azcanta. Willie on 9, facing down a lethal attacking force here. Bit of Angela Merkel action here from Willie, but ultimately shaking the hand of his opponent, and Ralph Patesh cleans up his game as well. So Andrew Davis doing a lot of work with white-blue control against Ken Parson. Josh Willie unable to get it done, and it seems like Kellen Pastor won his game, although we saw Camperman so far ahead. I don't know how it could be true.
I think those points are wrong, so I believe Andrew Davis's match is going to be the one that comes down.
Yeah, there we go.
And
we see things fixed up. Yeah, okay, so now Andrew Davis against Ken Parson with a Stony Silence and a Teferi. Things looking good for him. And once again, Ken Parson has been unable to connect and commit to the board with massive threats. And that's exactly the position you want to be in when you're facing off against Tron. Yeah,
and we see some Field of Ruin Exile and in the graveyard, helping to prevent Tron. I mean, in a matchup like this, the Tron player will eventually get anyways to 7-8 mana naturally, but Stony Silence cuts off a lot of the avenues, such as Oblivion Stone. So that means that Ken can only really resolve one spell per turn, and with Jace and Teferi, you're hammer locking this game.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good here for Andrew Davis. The other thing about Stony Silence is obviously the Tron deck isn't a pure artifact-based deck in the way that a lot of other, decks that you would bring the Stony Silence in against are. But the thing about it is it cuts off all of the Chromatic Stars, all of the Spheres, and Expedition Map. If you get it on turn 2, on the play or on the draw, it can do a lot of heavy lifting against the velocity of the Tron deck.
Yeah, exactly. And here, yes, Hieroglyphic Illumination once again.
Too good. Too good. This card's amazing, and we're going to see Thought Not Seer go after it as well.
It's in the top 4. It came 5th as well.
Get that out of here, says Ken Parson. I don't know what this card does. I don't play a lot of Standard, he says, but it looks pretty good. I'm going to get it out of here.
I mean, the 2 Path to Exiles, the reason you didn't see Andrew Davis fire this one off is because you had access to both. So you just let this Thought Not Seer happen, and then you path the Thought Not after just to not draw a card in response. And here you see the Illumination go away.
Look, it's a prime threat. It's a prime threat with the best card. Best card in Modern. I've always said that. From the first time that I saw Ben Stark play it yesterday, I was like, yep, this card's incredible. Never doubted it for a second. Let's see what Davis is up to here as he paths away. The Thought Not Seer draws a card.
And while we see this universe where Andrew Davis is locking up the game in favor of his team and was hoping for some other results to pan their way, we obviously had a parallel universe where Riley did think that Hieroglyphic Illumination was the bomb.
Always said it.
But yeah.
Never doubted in my conviction that this Hieroglyphic Illumination is the best card.
Yeah, and here an attack with Celestial Colonnade.
Very aggressive.
Well, I mean, with Teferi and Negate, you're good to go.
Yep. Ugin the Spirit Dragon isn't going to be spiriting any dragons today as Negate removes the powerful Planeswalker from contention. Davis goes and fetches another island.
Yeah, so our plan, Teferi up to 8, Jace Brainstorm, have another counterspell for whatever the next threat is.
And Crucible of Worlds off the top as well means that Field of Ruin can be recurred and recurred and recurred.
Yeah, and then you have Teferi, Hero of Dominaria about to ultimate, and then you start removing lands with Field of Ruin, you start removing lands with Teferi's Emblem. And the game is just about done. Andrew Davis proving why Blue-White has that edge against Tron.
Yep.
Or at least the right way to do it.
That's right, and I've been really impressed with Davis's play. He really hasn't made too many missteps here throughout this, enacting this anti-Tron game plan with a Logic Knot as well, getting it done against this card, and that is enough. Andrew Davis cleans it up for his team. A nice, clean, straight sets win over Ken Parsons. Congratulations to him. But commiserations indeed to both of those teams as we welcome you back to the booth here, my friends. We did think it was going to be a win and in for those guys, but unfortunately for them, another team has leapfrogged them in the form of Corson, Perez, and Lopez into fourth place. They've got the right pairings in front of me. Don't even worry about it. So that is our top 4. They are assembled, ready to go. We are going to take a break, get things set up for the semi-finals where you'll be joined by TJ and JVL. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be electric, ladies and gentlemen, so don't miss it. Stick around after the ads. We'll be back with the finals of GP Detroit.
Show off your love of Magic the Gathering with premium statues from Prime 1 Studios. Each figure stands 28 inches tall and is carefully sculpted in high-quality resin. Pre-order yours today at SideshowCollectibles.com.